Hey everyone, Brian Christian here with Father of Glory Global Ministries, and it is an honor to have Shelly Henk with us. I pronounce it right, Henk,
You
because it's with
did.
an
Yep.
E, not with an A. I almost called you Hank before, but it's Henk. And I'm really excited to have you with us today as we talk about integration and what was the other word? What did we call
Wholeness.
this thing? Say
Wholeness
it.
and integration.
Wholeness and integration in the
Hmm.
body and in the mind. I recently connected with Shelly, obviously through Facebook, and she's an amazing woman. We've had some time to talk on the phone about her vision and how the Father brought her into the ministry that she's carrying and the revelation that she's demonstrating, and it's powerful. And I believe you have a Facebook group, right?
I do. I do.
And what's it called?
It's called Whole Soul Studio Community.
Whole Souls Studio Community. So
Mhm.
if you're watching this on Facebook, please go check out her Facebook group and get involved. She's got a lot of videos and information that will kind of help center you, align you, and bring wholeness into your mind, emotions, and body. And she also has a website which I'm gonna go ahead and post, and it's wholesoulsstudio.com. And so I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and check that out. More people will be coming on as we continue, and they'll see all of this stuff. I know some will wait, 5 minutes. I don't wait. I just go for it. I'm sure you do the same.
I do.
But please like and share, because this video is going to really help people, especially if you're dealing with a lot of emotional trauma. And also, one of the things, your body is telling you things that's going on in your mind. And so, be aware that you might not feel like you have anything emotionally going on, that
Mhm.
you're in your mind, you're going, well, I don't feel wrong in my mind, but I'm having all these problems in my body. Well, it is connected to your mind. Your mind is telling you something about you that needs to line up, maybe something you've held against yourself or something that you believe has been held against you. And, there needs to be some restoration, some reconciliation in your mind. Well, I'm going to stop talking, and I want Shelly to just tell us a little bit about, yourself and your ministry, and how you stumbled across this revelation that you now carry.
Yeah, I would love to share. So, like so many stories, it came from my own challenges. I set out to become a nurse at 18 years old as soon as I got out of high school. I really wanted to become an artist, but I was told no um, by my
Interesting.
guidance counselor. And so I always had a big heart to serve people in suffering, always wanted to really help people. And so I thought, well, since I couldn't become an artist, I thought, well, I'll become a nurse. And so 18 years of nursing really introduced me to humanity's hardest moments, and it really introduced me to the challenges that people go through. And it was really through my own health breakdown as a nurse that I ended up coming to this revelation. So I got sick myself in my body. I was not aware that anything emotionally necessarily was going on. I thought that I had everything under control.
Wow.
But my body was telling on me. What I like to say is when your heart and head disagree, your body tells on you. And so my body was telling on me. And so I spent about a year actually unable to work. I was sick. I had all sorts of strange symptoms. I was diagnosed with POTS syndrome. I was diagnosed with chronic migraines, and anxiety disorder. And I had all sorts of weird neurological symptoms. They were testing me for MS and different things. But really, they really couldn't come up with anything major other than the POTS syndrome, which is, kind of where you like randomly pass out. Your head and your heart, your nervous system and your heart are literally not connecting.
Wow.
literally. And so you pass out. And so I was spent about a year at home, not able to work, going from doctor to doctor. I was a traditional nurse at that time. I was like, I'm sick. I go to the doctor. I get a pill. That's how you do it. That was my revelation.
Sure.
And so going through all of that, I ended up, actually, I was just praying and, asking God to show me an answer, because I would go to the doctor. The doctor wouldn't have any answers. I would go to church. I would ask for prayer. I wasn't getting any breakthrough there. And I was feeling really hopeless, and scared, because I had little kids. And so God whispered into my spirit to treat myself like a houseplant with complicated emotions.
Wow.
And that was what led me on this journey to wholeness.
That is powerful. Now, can I ask you, when you were going through all the physical things you were going through, what was going on in your mind and your emotions? How were you perceiving your life when you didn't have an answer?
Truthfully, I don't remember. I honestly, I feel like I had learned to disassociate from my emotions.
Okay.
For different reasons. But what I wrote a book called Just Say No. I co-authored a book with 14 other authors. And I shared this in the book, is that while I was very good at feeling other people's pain and other people's emotions, I am highly empathetic, and I didn't realize how to use that gifting. I actually ended up kind of disassociating from my own emotions while being consumed by other people's emotions.
That makes sense. I think that's actually pretty common,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
believe. And in fact, in some sense, we see a lot of that in a lot of the inner healing, the older versions of the inner healing ministry. I know for me, I would get a lot of people when they come to me for inner healing or mind renewal. I prefer the term mind renewal over inner healing.
Right.
And they would be really cautious and suspicious, because they'd go to these healing rooms to get more traumatized, because the people that were doing it were they were trying to heal themselves by healing others, and everything was backfiring.
Yeah.
In that arena. I know I had experienced that at times in my life in ministry, in my early days, and it's sometimes easier. It can almost become an escapism, right?
It is. It's an escapism. I feel like it's like spiritually, I call it like a spiritual lobotomy.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
um,
definitely.
because you
But you have,
spiritualize,
yeah,
and you're in faith, and you
yes,
kind of tell yourself this story. And I really think the religious mindsets were really part of what created that disassociation, truthfully.
yes, yes, definitely.
Because I thought, so I kind of attached to this belief that you don't look backwards. You don't look at your
Yeah.
past. You don't talk about your past. You don't
Oh yeah.
speak anything negative. You don't acknowledge
Western culture
anything.
Christianity, huh?
Right. And so my husband, Todd, and I were actually working in ministry when a lot of this stuff took place, and not placing blame or any, this is how I interpreted the scriptures. This is how I
Yeah,
interpreted what people were saying to me, not to place, you know, blame on
sure.
anyone at all. It was just what I interpreted and what I heard in the messaging. That's how I received it. And
Sure.
so I had several traumatic things happen to me throughout my life. I mean, I really, I look back on it as I was writing my chapter of the book. I was looking back on everything that happened, and the chapter that I wrote is called Backward is Beautiful. And
Wow.
that's really the methodology that I have really found to be helpful for me, that I use in helping people with these types of things, because I think we're inclined to not look backward, and we think that's super
Yes.
spiritual. Um, And I think there's also a tendency to always want to look forward too, but God
Yes.
is in the present.
That's
And
right.
so I think but there's also a danger to not looking backward or looking forward and only
Yeah.
being in the present. It's actually, that's why I say integration of our past, present, and future in the now
That's beautiful.
is actually
Yes.
where wholeness happens. And so I had, one of the icing on the cake, I think really for me was, I witnessed my dad commit suicide. My dad
Oh
had
my
terminal
gosh.
cancer and he committed suicide by gun. And I witnessed that. I found him. I was with him in that moment. I got to pray with him. He lived for 9 hours after that. And while it's, very sad and tragic thing, I can still see the goodness of God, even in all of that,
Yes.
but I lost a boyfriend in a tragic car accident in high school, followed by losing my grandma from a sudden heart attack, followed by I was in abusive relationships. It was just kind of one thing after another.
Yeah.
Then I became a nurse and I had all sorts of traumatizing events happen from nursing.
Oh
And in
yeah.
nursing, it's almost kind of like they unspoken kind of pull you aside and are like, yeah, no crying. It's not
Yeah.
allowed. Suck it up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You've got people to take care of,
Sure.
you kind of have to have that poker face and you have to disassociate from your emotions
Yes.
and deal with them later. And so I kind of learned to do that.
Yes.
And then in ministry, it's kind of the same thing. It's like you could be really in this really hard time with somebody, but you're there ministering to them. So it's not really about you and your emotions. And being a very highly empathetic person with like an artist personality that
Hmm.
doesn't see a sunset, they feel a sunset,
Yes.
all of those things really just came to a head. And then my brother actually ended up, succumbing to a drug addiction, and it was just a lot of things, a lot of things. And so what I learned to do was over spiritualize everything.
Oh yeah. I think that me too. I'm right there with you. I totally relate. Let me ask you something, not to interrupt, but
No.
um, now once I know for me, I had to cross over once my emotions that were repressed,
Mm-hmm.
that I couldn't deal with, and in your situation, you had to suck it up, nursing, and
Yeah.
that just added to the mindset that was already there to disassociate, right?
Right.
Okay. And so, in that, once wholeness comes in and once we become aligned in our body and in our mind,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like your emotions become the catapult to minister
Mm-hmm.
from a clear place, or like your emotions are now animating wholeness to where they're at in an opposite side. Like I know in my life, when I minister to people now, um, I don't just get a word for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I get a highlighted person in front of me. I feel their pain, and my mind is taken to my own historical moment where I see where the Father restored me. And then I simply take my experience and I pour it upon them, and it becomes their experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so now my emotions are fully engaged in a place to where it's not emotionalism, but
Right.
it's really the expression of the reality of truth. And I really feel there's a frequency and a vibration on emotion that is different from like intellect and these types of things. And we'll probably get
Mm-hmm.
into that. Now you said you co-wrote a book. Where do you get the book? If you were to tell everybody where to get it.
You can get it off of my website,
Okay. All right.
peacefulstudio.com.
So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
put that up there again, and just so everybody that's recently come on, you can see to go to the website. Oh, I got to put in there. I spelled it wrong, didn't I? You said Whole Soul Studio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. .com.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. So there it is again, everyone. So please go to her website and check that out, because this is some good stuff. And you sharing your experience is what actually qualifies you in this stuff. It doesn't matter how much book knowledge we have, how much psychology that's been studied here. You got to walk through this stuff and come out the other side.
Right.
And so when did you cross over? I mean, tell us a little bit about your breakthrough and how you kind of crossed out of that stuff.
Yeah, I love that question because it's true, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we want to know, like, have you lived it? Do you have personal experience? It's not enough to just read something in a theory.
Yes.
So kind of interesting, when the Lord showed me to treat myself like a houseplant with complicated emotions, I began doing that. And I actually connected with a local health food store. And they kind of were the first ones to introduce me to any type of alternative care or, anything outside of the traditional healthcare box. Now, keep in mind, this was really before I was on the internet or before, I mean, we had internet, but it wasn't like super popular,
Sure.
And I was actually coming home from my neurologist appointment. And I was telling him I was having these side effects from these medications and it wasn't helping my symptoms. It was causing a whole host of other symptoms. And his solution was to increase my dose.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I was livid. I was so angry. And, just again, this was kind of I think the pivotal moment was I was driving past this health food store, small little health food store. I mean, I never noticed it before, actually. I didn't even know it was there. But that day, God brought it into my awareness and I was almost past it. He's like, turn in there. So I turned in, I go into this health food store. I was like, this is super, like in my head, I'm thinking, this is weird. Like, I don't know. I don't know anything about this. And so they made some recommendations, changed my nutrition. They suggested some herbal supplements. They practice traditional Chinese medicine, a lot of the things that they do, did what they recommended. And within 2 weeks, I was feeling better.
Wow.
Yeah. It was pretty amazing because I had a whole year of doctor's offices, CT scans, MRIs, 2 surgeries.
Wow.
All this stuff. Nothing was working. Within 2 weeks, I was feeling better. And the hope began to rise. And so what ended up happening was that was sort of the pivotal moment. But as I began to get better, I went back to nursing because I was able to return back to work. Well, it was in nursing that actually my head and heart started to disagree again because I was like, well, I know this truth, but I'm giving people these medicines and I felt like I was just participating in prolonging people's suffering in some way, even though I don't mean that to sound condescending to the medical field, because obviously I believe in medicine and it's a gift. But for me personally, I knew that that was no longer my path. And so I began to look for solutions. I saw a picture of kind of helping people in this way. And I was in worship actually. And again, the Holy Spirit whispered to me, he showed me a picture actually of Acts 3 at the gate called Beautiful. And he said, help the body of Christ to become whole.
Yes. Wow.
And I was like, I don't, at that time I was like, I don't know that the word wholeness had ever really been something I had thought about. It was just something he dropped in me. And so I began searching for a place. Like, do I need to become a pastor? Do I need to become a naturopathic physician? Like, what does that look like? Right. But he was showing me this picture of physical, financial, spiritual health, everything, your emotions. And I'm like, where does that exist? And so he led me, took me 2 years actually, but he led me to a school for health professionals who wanted to help people holistically. And so they practice a model of care called whole health education. And so that was what I entered into. And it's not specifically a Christian school or anything like that, but they do recognize the spiritual health and different philosophies and things like that. And so it was actually through that work and the physicians who had kind of went to the other side,
That's
they
cool.
jumped to the other side and research. And what I loved about it was it showed me that you can practice evidence-based medicine, which is what I was trained to do as a nurse. You can practice in a professional way or in an evidence-based way. And there's actual research and science to support the things that scripture has been saying all along.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah. And so that was kind of a long thing, but that was really when that started happening for me. And then that's also when I began to enter into just kind of like another level of my own transformation. A lot of the things were, some of the things were very new age, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And it really challenged me because I was like, okay, is this okay? Like I was taking kind of some of this new age stuff and looking for, is it supported in the scripture, and where is the line, and is this, it was really messing with my mind.
Let me say something real quick here, Dan. I don't want to interrupt, but I got to say this because I know some of our audience really struggles with the new age concept. And I'm not a new ager. I'm a now ager.
Yeah.
I'm an upgraded version. I'm a now ager in the ageless one. But what I found is that if the term new age was in the days of Jesus, he would have been called a new ager.
Yeah.
People say mediums aren't from God. Well, what do you think Jesus was talking to on the Mount of Transfiguration, Moses and Elijah? He was being a medium. When he turned the water into wine, he was being an alchemist.
Yes.
Okay, because that's changing matter. And so, Jesus tapped into a lot of the Eastern philosophy and meditation.
Yep.
And that's where he disappeared to when he disappeared in Scripture. He went to the kings of the East.
Right.
And so when he tells the Pharisees, the kings of the East and the West shall enter the kingdom before you, he was referring to those who had tapped into the reality of God, the now of God, and even I think natural things as well. I mean, Jesus took mud and he put it in the guy's eyes. He was using natural elements with spiritual reality. So for those out there that if you're afraid of being deceived, realize it's the fear of deception is the only deception. Just go with it, because everybody out there is pretty much saying the same thing, but according to their culture and their language. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of similarities, whether it's Eastern. I think the only one that really sticks out as a sore thumb is Western culture, which really just represses and does not want people to experience, but is more leaning upon the intellectual Greek-minded side of things, mm-hmm. rather than the experiential place of how Jesus, presented truth.
Right.
And, but anyway, continue.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. And it was really, so I will say I've always been, like I said, very empathetic. I've always had an awareness of God. Truthfully, I've saved people's lives as a nurse because the Holy Spirit spoke to me and told me things. Right. And so actually was pulled into my DON's office and asked if I was a witch before because because I saved a baby's life from just a spiritual unction, not a clinical, no clinical findings that would support. Yeah. And so, when my boyfriend in high school passed away, I knew in my spirit that something bad had happened. I actually got physically ill and felt like I was going to throw up when he died. So
we are connected.
Yeah. And I guess I don't think other, like some people, when I tell them that, it's like weird for them because I guess they don't have those
We all
things,
have it. It's just whether or
or
not
they
you're
don't
aware.
experience it. Yeah.
Yes.
But so I've always kind of been aware. But it was in this class, in this training that I went to become a certified whole health educator, that, I took a class. It was, well, several different classes, but one of them, it really stood out, was called Science and Spirituality, One of the Same.
Okay.
And that really spoke to me because I, started to see the quantum physics of
Oh yeah.
spirituality. And I already had somewhat of an awareness. I homeschooled my kids, and we actually studied some quantum physics, some Christian quantum physics, even in homeschool. But I started to become aware, and one of the things that God was really showing me, that through my own personal experience, is it's the disintegration of past, present, future, the disintegration
Yes.
of body, spirit, soul, right?
Right.
That's what we love to do in the Western culture, is disintegrate. Well, disintegration equals disease. And so what I realized, what God showed me, was that what I did in the name of Christianity, in the name of spirituality, I disconnected from my body.
Yes.
I disconnected from my heart, my spirit and my soul disconnected from my body, and I was largely living out of my head. So when your head and heart disagree, your body tells on you. When your head, your heart, your hands are in alignment, you
Yes.
experience wholeness. So it's like
Wow.
if your head's telling you one thing, but your hands are doing something different,
Yes.
then you're not aligned, and you're going to experience illness.
Can, can I add my own testimony just for a brief moment?
Mm-hmm.
When I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's autoimmune disease almost 2 years ago, I didn't receive it in my head. I'm out flowing and ministering and all of that. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go eat a pizza and a cheeseburger,
Mm-hmm.
and because it was connected to thyroid, and I did start taking the thyroid meds because my hormone levels were low.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took those. I had gained a lot of weight out of nowhere, and I immediately started dropping weight. But before I started to do all of that, I was out of breath after 10 feet of walking. I
Mm-hmm.
continued with the diet. I thought my head and my heart were in alignment, and
Mm-hmm.
my hands were still, I'm still doing, kind of like when Jesus said, take up your bed and walk. Well, somebody who's out of alignment with action would not get up and walk. But if you
Do
get
that.
up and
Yeah.
walk, it means you're not crippled. So you're starting to align, right? So things change as you move into alignment. And
Mm-hmm.
so what the church does is they tend to move in alignment with physical action
Mm-hmm.
and with their head, but their heart is not there. Their
Right.
heart's not in it. And I really think the heart of it
It's not in it.
is, and we're not just talking about physical heart here, we're
Yeah.
also talking about historical conclusion,
Right.
and the way in which you perceive your journey into this motion, into this agreement. And so for me, um, once it hit me and I was bedridden and I had to change my diet,
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading up on it. You can reverse it in 90 days. And I did.
Yeah.
I reversed it in 90 days just for it to come back with a vengeance, even though I was doing everything right.
Right.
And it was because my heart was still trying to eat to be healthy rather than eat healthy as a byproduct of loving myself.
That's it. That's the
and
secret.
and it took some time, and I didn't even realize that my heart had come into alignment because my mind hadn't become conscious of the heart change immediately. But
Mm-hmm.
when it hit, it was, I watched it change, but I still wasn't convinced that I was whole for like
Mm-hmm.
another 3 weeks because
Yep.
I hadn't moved. So when I started moving, I was all sore because my body wasn't used to moving,
Yeah.
especially my hips, all the cords had shrunk,
Mm-hmm.
and so I thought, I'm having a side effect from Hashimoto's because it was very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been I want to say since March that I've been healed.
Mm-hmm.
And but I didn't talk about it till April. And I've been eating regular food, maybe some of the wrong foods I shouldn't be eating.
Mm-hmm.
But moderation is okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it was amazing because I have no symptoms. Now I'm still waiting to go back to the doctor for
Mm-hmm.
actual confirmation, but there was no way I could ever recover. This was a non-recovery thing. I can
Right.
reverse the some of the side effects, but you're stuck with it for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, we haven't had to even pray for anybody. Just being around them, there's a frequency that emanates,
Mm-hmm.
and miracles are just instant. Just being around people or just talking to them about this,
Mm-hmm.
wholeness is manifesting. In many of the places that we've gone,
Mm-hmm.
and so I bear witness to what you're saying. That I first started claiming. You got to realize I was already out of the claiming healing thing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So in this point, I'm claiming not healing, but I'm already whole. I don't need prayer.
Yep.
I don't need you to pray for me. I don't want to operate out of this place of lack to obtain.
Yep.
I'm now going to just stand in the reality that wholeness is my reality, but the rest of me would not engage. And here's what's crazy. All the elements of waiting and all the contradictions is what aided me to line up. None of it took away from me. Nothing was blocking me. Everything I thought was blocking me was actually aiding me to line up, because when I couldn't get out of bed and I felt like I was a burden to my wife, that feeling of being a burden was me not loving myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when my wife changed her whole diet to not tempt me with the food I couldn't eat, and changed the whole family's diet. And if you know about Hashimoto's,
Mm-hmm.
you hardly get to eat anything.
Right.
And you eat a lot of meat is what you eat.
Yeah.
When she did that, I saw the love of the Father through my family to be a support to me. And it began to shift where I believed I was a burden that was actually emanating from the past conclusions of my childhood experience.
Yep.
Okay. And I didn't have any memory images at the time, but it was already beginning to happen. And then I felt like, I felt like I was going to be by myself, kind of like the dunce hat in the corner when we would get together with people,
Mm-hmm.
because we always ate together. And it was a big thing, community and eating everywhere we travel and minister.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm the guy in the corner that has to eat by himself. And don't look at all that yummy food you can't eat. So I'd have to leave the room.
Yeah.
While everybody was enjoying fellowship, because all I wanted to do was eat all their food and I couldn't, right?
Right.
And so it was very painful, and I was upset at that. And so next thing you know, people were just going out of their way saying, "Oh, Brian, it's such a privilege for us to make you your own meal.
Mm-hmm.
We want to bless you with your own meal." So I started to experience this love and affirmation where I expected to be isolated, a burden. And so the body outwardly began to speak to the body inwardly.
Yeah. Oh.
And it totally transformed everything. But one thing that happened, I haven't shared this publicly yet. This is new information since then.
Mm-hmm.
We did a conference in New York, and it was the best conference we've ever had. I mean, it was just a heavy, weighty glory of God, and just instant. I mean, people are still lost in the glory from that conference.
Mm-hmm.
That was a month ago. And just total transformation in relationships, in their heart and their body and their mind. People were hugging and getting healed. Okay, it was just wonderful. But at the end of that conference, I did a live shift session. A person volunteered to do a mini shift, and I taught on triggers. And at the end of the meeting, I'm breaking everything down, and my dogs got out of the cage, and another dog there bit my dog, and it's a puppy. And I saw it happening ahead of time. And I even said, "Let's put the dog away." It got out. I got triggered. I mean, I got triggered. And I almost couldn't compose myself. I thought, man, I'm about to lose my ministry if I open my mouth right now. And thank God there were only a few there that were okay with letting me vent.
Yeah.
But when I got out of there, I had to have my wife, because I was angry with my wife for letting the dog out. But it was so much deeper than that moment.
Yeah.
And she started to lead me in a shift. Now, let me just say this. The moment it hit, when I'm sitting there and I'm getting into a memory, I immediately have Hashimoto's all over again. It all comes back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my prostate doubled in size. I couldn't urinate. My brain went to mush. My whole back, all my organs felt like rocks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, what just happened? But as I went into these memories, and get this, they were childhood memories that were connected with food. Okay, food memories, trauma food, where I was force fed, or food was withheld from me. I went through a lot of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and some places where there wasn't any affirmation in these types of places. Once the truth came in, all the Hashimoto's was gone again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was all gone again. And I thought to myself, because I've been on kind of the fence here with, well, we need to eat healthy. So some of our issues is bad food.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and some of it's from the mind,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I was kind of on the fence there.
Mm-hmm.
I am completely off the fence. I truly believe, and we do need to eat right,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not eating right to be healthy. It's a byproduct of you loving yourself.
That's
Okay.
it. Mm-hmm.
And so when I reach for bad food, it's not the food that messed me up. It's the reaching from a mind of self-condemnation and I'm eating, and the byproduct is junk.
Right.
And so I am 100% believe now that all sickness and disease is directly connected to the mind and to that heart and mind alignment with the actions and movements of the body. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that because what you're speaking so confirms to me everything I've just recently walked through. So continue.
Yeah. No, that's good. And I love that you're experiencing that, and I do help people with nutrition, and I do help people spiritually and emotionally and relationally and the wholeness, right?
Yes.
And I think that you're really touching on something that's so important, because a lot of my clients do come to me, I call it, like, there's the sick and tired syndrome. They maybe don't
Yes.
have like a diagnosis, but they're just sick and tired. They don't really know what's wrong, but they just know they're sick and tired. And what I realized, like, for myself is that, exactly.
Amen.
So what I realized for myself was that when I was working with people, I personally had never been on a diet before in my life. The reason why I changed my nutrition, and the reason why I started doing the emotional work and doing some of these things, and the spiritual work, was because of illness, not because I didn't like the way my body looked.
Sure.
Right. But I would say a good amount of clients actually come to me because they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they don't like the way they look. They don't like the way they feel. And so what we uncover is this diet mindset.
Yeah.
And the diet mindset reminds me of religion.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a form of religion. You're like trying to be good, and there's good foods and bad foods, and it's restrictive, and it's, this and that. And so there's the diet mindset, and that has the word die in it, first of all.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Wow. I didn't even see that before.
Right. So it's like, let's not maybe do things that have the word die in them. But there's a difference. What I say as, with what I do is I'm helping people to create wholeness. I'm helping people to create health and wholeness in their life. And that's a different thought process. It's a different energy. You're coming from a different place when you're creating health versus going on a diet. So it's the difference between a loving relationship,
Yes.
right, and restriction and religion.
Ooh, that's so good.
That's what it reminds me of. And so if it's like the actions can look similar,
Sure.
right? And I can be eating healthy because I'm punishing myself, and I don't, because I'm trying to earn love, I'm trying to earn worth, I'm trying to earn,
Yes.
right? Or trying to get away from a disease even.
Yes.
Or I can eat healthy because it's a way to honor my body. It's a way to honor and steward, right, what I've been given. And it's like you're eating from love. You're eating because you love yourself.
Yes.
Like you have a
Definitely.
car, so it's like your Lamborghini, and you detail it and you change the oil and you do, if it's a Lamborghini, right? Like if it's a
Yeah.
1980 minivan, like who cares, right? Well,
That's
when
right.
we when we treat ourselves like the Lamborghini that we are, that
Right.
God created us to be, because we are the image of the Father.
That's right. Wow. See, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. So if you were to, I know we're all, man, boy, this time is just flying by. If you were to break down in a simple way, I'm not much of a step guy, 10 steps, 5 steps or whatever, but some postures here. If
Mm-hmm.
somebody is going through, and I like to integrate it, like you said, it's not just about losing weight. It's about imagery. You
Right.
know, it's not just about escaping a disease. It's about letting go of your fear of lack and loss, you know. And so there's a balance here, but where do we all start? If you were to lead somebody into a process and somebody was to come to you with one or all of these issues, whether it's something they're dealing with emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
something that they don't know, but they're feeling it in their body, or it's just body imagery in the way in which they perceive themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Where would we start? How would you start the process to wholeness that would give the audience here some keys of where do we go? Where do we start from here?
Yeah. So I always start with a free assessment,
Okay.
because, it's like we don't want to give the solution before we know really
Yes.
what the root is, because there's different roots. There's
Yeah.
different, but I will say I do, for the most part, unless somebody is really on point, already with their nutrition, is I have found that addressing the nutritional aspect first
Yes.
is usually the first step. And
That's
this
what
is
I
why.
did too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is why, because when you clear up the nutrition, so food is energy.
Yes.
And if you don't have the energy to fuel your mind, because your mind operates off of energy, it's the most glucose,
Yes.
nutrient hungry organ in the body. And actually there's research, that even supports that, like with PTSD and trauma and stuff like that, nutritional changes can help with that. But if you think of like your mind, like as if it's actually wounded, like a broken leg or something, a
Yes.
broken leg needs nutrients to heal.
Oh,
So if
that's
you're always in
powerful.
a nutrient depleted state, it does make it, from a practical level, harder to heal. So I usually always want to address the nutritional aspect first, so that we can turn the brain on. So then
Yes.
the brain can do the work. And I know how we connected was I heard you talking about the pineal gland, and I was like, oh,
Yes.
this interests me. So that's kind of actually
Yes.
how we got connected, because when you so I like to help people kind of get into a semi fasting state, where their
Mhm.
pineal gland is turned on and
Yes.
operating at the highest function, which that's our spiritual receptor,
That's
the
right.
part of our brain that's the spiritual receptor. Then that awakens our consciousness. And so it's like food can act almost like alcohol in
Sure.
the brain. It's a sedative. Too many carbs, too much food, it's a sedative. And so that's kind of where I usually start people with, just to get the brain turned on. And then once the brain's turned on and has the energy needed, then we can do more of the mindset, emotional, spiritual
Yes.
work. So I kind of have two options to work with me. One, I host retreats, which I do have one coming up July 8th. It's a 3-day retreat, and that is not focused on nutrition at all. It's more of a spiritual retreat,
All
to
right.
improve spiritual health, to grow your relationship with God, yourself, and others.
Wonderful. So
And
where
so
is this at? Is it
that's on the website.
okay?
Oh,
All
it's
the information.
virtual. It's virtual. The
Oh, it's
retreat is
virtual.
virtual.
Okay, so you don't have to leave your living room, everybody. That's wonderful.
No, no. And I incorporate, creative modalities. So photography, imagery, art, and those types of things. So I've kind of married my love for ministry, my love for art, and my love for health in a 3-day
I love
retreat.
that.
And then I also am an Enneagram relationship coach. So we kind of go into a little bit of Enneagram work, not a ton, but just a little bit. So that's an option. And I like to use the language of story. So unearthing the story of you, your highest calling and your God-sized dreams. And because we are really a story living inside of a story.
Yes, we are.
And it's really only our perceptions of the stories, right, that really keep us suffering and keep us
That's
bound.
right. Yeah.
And so we kind of use creativity. We get into the right brain to really access the deeper parts of us and kind of forget that thinking part of our brain that keeps us stuck. So that's the retreat that I have. And then the Wholeness Coaching, that's actually a physician-led program that I coach that offers, a nutritional component, dealing a lot with the emotions and more of the mind renewal stuff. It's not specifically a Christian philosophy. So if you're not totally sold out on Jesus, that's okay. I want to support people, meet them where they're at in their pain, and help them to become aware and awaken to their life and live from their whole soul. And so that's really the two different ways that I help people. But it all just starts with a consultation. I do free consultations and a 30-minute coaching session with anybody that wants to learn more and wants to find out what wholeness could look like for them, and then kind of make recommendations going from there. But my philosophy is to live from your whole soul. Yeah. I believe that is the solution, because what I recognized truly was that I was born to be an artist, but I became a nurse. And being a nurse, actually, it sounds maybe weird to say this, but being a nurse was like being someone I wasn't.
Yeah.
And faking it, not using your gifts, your true nature. Although, yes, I could show up in a measure of who I was as a nurse, but not in the fullness of who I was as a nurse. And I was born to be an artist. And so what I really realized was that when we live from our whole soul and we stop putting on masks and we stop trying to fake it, we stop trying to pretend that nothing's wrong with us, pretend that it's okay, and integrate our past, present, future, our head, our hands, and our heart, our spirit, soul, and body.
Yes.
And we become integrated. That is what wholeness looks like. And I believe I'm even coming into more of awareness more recently from the spiritual aspects of that. We talk about shalom, and shalom is not an individual thing. Mm-hmm. Shalom is a communal wholeness. It's a oneness, right?
Yes.
So what that means is if you're in pain and you're in suffering, then I cannot be whole because you are part of me.
That's it right there.
And so that's kind of my more recent revelations that I'm like, oh, wholeness it just keeps growing. It just keeps
we are one body. I mean, I love the quantum realm. That's why, like, even with, we were talking about food being energy.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, if you're not in alignment, it starts with the food, but let's say you're using food to escape.
Right.
Okay. Then it's simply programs hacking programs.
Yeah.
Because that, from the quantum realm, that food is a program you designed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's all still moving within the interaction of that which is operating outside of the revelation of wholeness. Mm-hmm. And so if you see it, and I freak people out with some of the things I say, but but that's okay. Everybody is a representation of the subconscious interaction of God.
Mhm.
And that there's really only one. And so everything you're experiencing around you is you, but it's also, it's really your subconscious as well. From that quantum standpoint, this is all one big mind we're walking in a
We have the
thought
mind of
process of
Christ.
God. Yeah. And
Mhm.
so we have all these different levels of consciousness that are operating simultaneously. And obviously we got to integrate all of them, because if we lean on one of them, we're going to go extreme, and we're going to enter right back into religion,
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, I know in my life when I was never good at diet. And if you had heard of my diet, you'd have been like, how are you still alive? I mean, I lived on Dr. Pepper, fudge, McDonald's, and Starbucks. I hardly
Right.
even drank water.
Yeah.
Okay. For years. And then
Yeah.
I would stop doing that, and I'd eat healthy, and I'd go into fitness. I was a trainer at one point. So I bounced back and forth, but it
Mhm.
was all according to my mindset.
Mind. Mhm.
And I realized that a lot of the depression I was experiencing was based on my food.
Yeah.
And so, and I talk to people like this. We do shift sessions,
Mhm.
and shift means we call it getting shift faced. But a shift session, it means sanctify historical illusions, finding truth. And I've done this for years with other ministries, and I've used other people's tools, and I've kind of come up with my own and got rid of the shortcuts and added quantum, and got rid of demon focused stuff and send consciousness.
Mhm.
And I work with a lot of people that deal with disassociation, identity disorder, bipolar, depression,
Mhm.
that have come out of, victims of rape and incest and these types of things. And sometimes there's not a memory. There's not a
Right.
memory you can get to,
Yeah.
but they're streaming with emotion.
Yeah.
They just don't have where to go with it. And so we tend to use their body memory. They'll start feeling things. So their body will actually start telling them, you don't remember at 5 years old when this happened to you, but they'll start feeling something in that part of their body. And I'll say, focus in on that. I want you to just feel that.
Yep.
And I'll just simply ask the Father to take them to that place. Now, they won't get a memory, but they'll get a symbolic imagery.
Yeah.
Like a wheel on fire, or a burning triangle, or a dark, locked door.
Mhm.
And so through almost like parables and symbols,
Mhm.
they start to reconcile their emotions, their body, their body memory now begins to come into a new revelation of who they are. Their emotion begins to come into a new revelation of who they are. And all of a sudden, memories begin to come up
Mhm.
after that. So you reconcile. And the same with altered personalities. They're not demons.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
splits in the mind, because the mind, it's a God-given gift. Disassociation in extreme situations is a God-given gift to
Mhm.
protect your mind from insanity.
Right.
And so the split allows you to cope
Mhm.
and not be overwhelmed. The problem is it doesn't come back with trauma. And
Right.
we all disassociate, right?
Yep.
I mean, when I mow the lawn, I don't think about blades of grass. My mind goes somewhere else. It goes to a teaching, a revelation, because of
Yeah.
boredom.
Yeah.
When you're driving down the street, you don't recall the last 3 stoplights you went through, if they were red or green,
Right.
because that's boredom. So your mind out of boredom will separate,
Mhm.
but it's healthy. It comes back.
Mhm.
But in trauma, it doesn't come back. And so
Right.
it creates its own government in its mind, to manage the pain, to manage, the trauma.
Mhm.
And recently, I know we'll go over time a little bit here. Uh, Recently, I've been doing a study on Stockholm Syndrome, okay,
Mhm.
and how that really is trauma bonding, right?
Mhm.
And most people, you see the definition. It's those that relate to their captors, are loyal to their captors. They create a bond and feel safe with
Mhm.
the abuse,
Mhm.
because it's been familiar. They don't know what healthy is.
Right.
Okay. And so anything that's healthy feels insecure,
Right.
because they built that bond. Now, what's happened is nobody's gone beyond that definition. What about when somebody leaves gets out of a relationship where there's trauma bonding, and because they got out, they think they're whole now. And then they join themselves in relationship to a healthy relationship, and they are over loyal in that relationship because they were loyal with the abuser. But because there was no closure in the past, and there's a sense of injustice at a subconscious level, eventually the relationship they're in, especially if it's not abusive, that person is going to try to get the person to abuse them. Subconsciously self-sabotage. And then on top of that, if they don't respond, then they're going to try to attack that person because that person it's like the abuser in another body in which they're trying to get justice for their past. And we
when
really
you project that onto the other person too.
Exactly.
Even though they're not doing it, you project the people from your past, you project that pain onto other people.
You do, and I remember, just being bald, I've triggered people because I remind them of, a father figure in their life or somebody. And now if I wasn't healed like I am, I would be all offended. I would be wanting to defend myself. And we see a lot of preachers that have set a bad example of, living out of a triggered life and lie-based thinking and religion. And they've promoted within churchianity, and I make no bones about it. I got issues with Western culture Christianity. They got issues. I make no bones about it. But we were always taught that it's only about the spirit, and your mind is evil, your body is evil,
right? And
just kill the flesh, subdue your mind. And again, what do they say? Forget what is behind. Paul said, forget what is behind. Right. Press on to that which is ahead. Well, Paul wasn't talking about triggers and lie-based thinking. He was talking about.
I know that now.
Yes. He was. If you read the whole scripture, he's letting go of his religious zeal that repressed his past pain. He's letting go of everything that was being used to avoid his pain, and he's putting that behind him. He's saying, I'm letting go of the religious self-protection, zeal.
He's letting go of the law.
He's letting go of the law.
That's really what he's doing, so that he can enter into liberty,
Exactly. And what was it that Moses said? God said to Moses, he said, tell my people to remember that I delivered them out of Egypt. So now he's saying, remember your past. Paul's saying, forget your past. So when you kind of combine them, you realize that you're only going to remember your Egypt from the Father's perspective. Otherwise, you're going to repress it and try to forget it. So it's all about reconciliation, reintegrating. And in that, you're going to be able to have access to your past that now carries a present platform of the proof of goodness, grace, and glory that is really about your entire story. And I know for me, I'm a living testimony. I'm the poster child of screw ups. Okay. I'm like, I was Jonah. I was so extreme. I'm either all in or all out, back in the day. I'd be in the ministry, I'd be quitting. I'd be in the ministry, I'd be quitting. I'm done. I'm done with God. I'm an atheist. I'm a believer. I'm this. And I always thought God was putting that little carrot in front of me. Yeah. And he was mocking me. He was like, everybody else could get the carrot but me. Outcast in my family, the black sheep, outcast in the church, outcast in society. Yeah. I never fit in. And I had no idea that the black sheep are the only ones awake in their family. I had no idea that that was what was going on. Yeah. And so for my life to be where it's at now, it actually came in my inability to measure up. It came when I threw in the towel. Yeah. And I stopped trying to obtain. I stopped trying to get somewhere. Yeah. And I simply allowed the Father, I embraced my pain. I embraced it.
It is. Yeah.
And I know there is a lot of different healings out there, and I'm not against them. There's some quantum healings and vibration frequency and all that. And it's all good. It's going to hit you at different levels. Yeah. But there's something about embracing your pain and getting closure that allows your present situation to now benefit from it, where some of these other techniques block off your
That's
path
right.
without getting a revelation of the purpose of why you walk through that is now going to build everyone around you and manifest wholeness in their life, you know?
And I actually, what I have found and what I really like to help people do is to unearth their broken stories.
Yes.
Exactly. Our physical body is just a spirit as our spirit is spirit. And that's the thing is like, we can't de-spiritualize our body. Like our body is evil because it's flesh, right? And our spirit is holy because it's spirit. No, your body is sacred and spiritual.
It
Just
is.
like your spirit is sacred and spiritual. And when we eat, live, move, and have our being, right? We do all those things from that place of recognizing that our body is spirit also, it's spiritual also. Then we can treat it the way that it needs to be treated, which is to help, to heal, I say, is to help everyone align with love.
Yes. Oh yeah. You know, I got to connect you. Kay, you're on here. You got to connect with Shelly here. Have her come over or something, because I'm telling you, you two would tag team this really good. Kay is amazing. We're going to be with her this Sunday in Indiana, and just an amazing woman of God. And I tell you, she flows a lot in left brain, right brain. If you haven't connected with her, she's amazing. She's got a really powerful teaching ministry that's a lot of it allegorical. She carries a lot of the allegorical view. Wonderful, and has been really flowing in this for about 45 years. So just amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah, I would love to connect.
I love, I'm going to quote her because it's really powerful. Spirit slowed down to visibility is the word made flesh. And so even though your body is matter from a quantum realm, your body is simply the frequency of spiritual motion slowed down to an expression. And so, you know, and you know, when it comes to emotion to me, in the invisible realm is spiritual motion that's now emanating an expression and being experienced in our exchange as emotion. So eternal motion slowed down to visible form is emotion. And emotion isn't just in your head, is it?
No, it's actually not really in your head at all.
Tell me where it's at.
It's in your body.
It's in your body, right?
It's in your body. Which is why when I kept going to the doctor and they would say, what are you feeling? I interpreted that to mean, what am I thinking? Like they would ask me, well, are you sad? Are you depressed? Are you? And I was like, no, I don't think so. I think I'm fine. I feel fine, except for my body didn't feel fine. But that was just because I took on this belief that emotion was wrong. You don't live by your emotions. I was told, you know, God's not moved by your feelings. He's moved by your faith. You know, things like that. And that made me disconnect from a big part of who I am. Now I do realize there's people that are more feelers than others, but I'm definitely a feeler. Like I said, I feel a sunset. I don't see a sunset. Some people see a sunset. And so to tell me that was an evil part of me and that I shouldn't listen to it and that I should disassociate from my feelings was actually a recipe. Now, whether that was what was said to me or not, it doesn't matter. That's what I interpreted. So I want to make that full disclaimer.
Oh yeah, we got to take account for our own mind. We can't.
Right. Maybe I interpreted it that way because it was a way of protecting, you know, like survival mechanism. Okay. So I'm not placing blame on anybody, but that's what I heard. And I feel like that's what a lot of other people hear. The other thing too, is that it's like, if you feel in the medical world, you get a pill for that. Oh, you feel anxious? Here's a pill. oh, you feel depressed? Here's a pill. You feel overwhelming sadness? Here's a pill. Again, not saying that pills can't be used by people. I'm not placing judgment or anything like that. But what if your anxiety is your spiritual awakening? What if your sadness is telling you something? What if it's like your path to healing and wholeness?
It is.
And then you're numbing it with medications. And so yeah, I disassociated from feeling that. And the other thing is, when you disassociate from feeling negative emotions, you actually lose your joy as well, because you can't numb one feeling and not numb the other. And so you end up losing your joy and that as well. And that's one thing too. I like to start people with the nutrition, because most Christians are not numbing with like heroin or crack cocaine. They're usually numbing with food or sometimes alcohol, but for the most part, it's food. Not even aware. I know I did that. I just thought I liked chocolate ice cream and tacos a lot.
Sure.
And chips and queso. I just thought I really liked it. I would not have said that I was emotional eating at all. But it was when I got rid of those things and stopped numbing that I was like, oh, I do have feelings. And maybe I need to do something with all of these feelings and all of these stories. And so, I actually encourage people to unearth their broken stories, to talk about them. But the difference is in how we remember our stories is the difference. Because if you remember your story and you just tell your trauma, then you will be re-traumatized every time you tell your story. But if you unearth your story and you tell it in the light of love, through the light of Christ, the lens of Christ, knowing that everything that has ever happened to you happened for your highest good, not for your destruction.
That's right.
Right? That's a whole different way of remembering your story. So it's almost like we get this opportunity to go back, visit those places, and be found. What I say is be found in our story. Be found in our stories. Because isn't that what we wanted? Like, you're a little boy, you're traumatized, your people are withholding food from you or whatever. Isn't that what you wanted, was somebody to come and find you and love you?
That's right. It's beautiful.
It's that simple.
Wow.
It doesn't have to be all woo-woo and everything, it's called attunement.
Wow.
When I find you in your story and I bear witness to your story, and I can offer compassion and healing for you in the moment of your brokenness, you are now attuned. My nervous system and my compassion attunes your nervous system.
That's right.
And then you can become integrated to where you're not disconnected from your past anymore. And the process of telling the story in that way, in the presence of compassionate, loving listeners that can help you to name the pain and find you in your story, brings restoration.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. Well put. Well, everyone, you guys got to get a hold of this awesome lady here, Shelly Henk. She's amazing. I did just post again. It's wholesoulstudio.com. And please reach out, check out. And again, what's the name of your group on Facebook?
Whole Soul Studio Community.
Whole Soul Studio Community. I can never say that fast, but yeah. And check it out, because we're joining forces with everyone that the Father's bringing into our sphere. And I truly believe, like right now, there is an attack on, or at least the church thinks there's an attack on themselves because of a lot of this revelation coming forth. Mm-hmm. They're either calling it New Age or Eastern religion or whatever. But here's the thing. The Father is in everyone, and there's a truth that everyone has, and every part is doing its share. And Christ, everyone's already in Christ. I don't care whether they're awake or asleep. Everyone's in him. There's nobody that's separated from God. And so we need to learn to be able to glean. And, I heard a friend of mine, Jermaine Thomas, if you don't know him, he's really amazing. He's a social worker, and he carries a really powerful anthropologist view of God, of the scriptures, of culture. And I love it because we need that. We need to understand that. And he made a statement. He says, God, the church is not under attack. The church is under review. And it's time for the church to allow this type of revelation to come in and bring restoration and bring healing. And my heart, and this is where I kind of come in, is even though we do shift sessions and we, minister a lot on eternity and the quantum, our main heart is to connect people. We join people. One log off by itself isn't going to be enough fire. We need to get enough logs on the fire. And we're going to be actually doing this thing in October. I haven't gotten the flyer out yet because we're still working on details, but it's the third weekend or fourth weekend of October. It's the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. We will be in South Carolina on some land. It will be a camp gathering. So bring a tent. There'll be showers. There'll be food. I think it's $100 each for registration. And there's several ministries from around the nation that are all of the same heart and mind to see everybody become one are coming together. We're going to gather the logs and put them on the fire. I truly believe we're coming to the place where a lot of what we're speaking, where we seem to be underground right now or hidden or the minority, we're about to become the majority. We're about to see it go mainstream. This revelation that you're sharing, Shelly, the revelation I'm sharing, and that, Kay Fairchild and many others out there are sharing. And so we want people to come together. Let's glean from what each other carries. And because I don't have all the truth.
No.
None of us do by ourselves, but in our togetherness, we are going to have that all the truth. We're going to have the full counsel of God, and we need each other. So please, connect with Shelly, and I know, Shelly, I'll be sending some people your way that I can't necessarily help. There are some I can't help.
Yeah.
And so we need each other. And I just so appreciate you taking time out and being on the program today. I know we were going to do it before, and we were having all kinds of RV issues.
Yeah.
Still are, but we're driving by faith,
Yeah.
And, but thank you so much. It's been an honor, and we're going to have to definitely do this again. And I know Kay's going to reach out to you. So if you don't have her on Facebook, add her. And I know many others are going to be watching this later throughout the week and are going to be connecting with you. So I'm really expecting a lot of doors to open for you, because you're carrying an important key and a very balanced message that we all need to hear, and we all need to put it on. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so again, go check her out, and we love you guys and appreciate you. If you want to go to our website, it's www.foggm.org. We are updating, so we're trying to get the shift sessions available there. We already had somebody try to make appointments. I'm like, wait, it's not ready yet. Don't make an appointment. So we're going to try to make it automated so it's easier, so we're not missing people on several platforms, and we can't keep up. And we will be continuing in about 2 weeks. We're taking 2 weeks off as we travel to go see Kay in Indiana, and Fort Wayne, which I call Fort Whack. It's the place where you get whacked in the glory. And we're going to be there. And then we will be in South Carolina before the end of the month, planting. We're going to plant for a bit and sit for a bit. We had to cancel our whole West Coast. I felt it in the spirit before we even started traveling, but I was going to go until I really knew. But I just felt like God said, no, we're not going West Coast this year. So we're going back to the Southeast, and we're going to plant. We're going to build with Rick and Sheila Watts, who are pastors of Impact Family. And we're going to see what the Father's going to break open in Orangeburg, South Carolina. And what's funny, we're going to be on Bamberg Road. And if you've ever followed me, I like to bam people. It's always that. They always get bammed. So I think I'm going to the right place.
There you go.
but we will be doing a lot more videos once we get parked, and a lot more, media ministry. So really excited to spend this time with you, Shelly. And thank you again for being a part of our lives in this season. Love y'all. You have a wonderful afternoon. Like and share, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.